MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? I'm Guy. That's John. Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF. Live on YouTube right now. It is Monday afternoon or Monday evening, depending on where you were, sometimes where you are. If you're listening to this podcast after the fact, great to have you. Check out our YouTube, which is in the description of the podcast. If you're watching the YouTube, awesome. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And check out our podcast, which is down in the description below.
Okay, let's dive into pitchers and catchers reporting.
All right, John, the ace for the San Francisco 49ers coming back off of elbow surgery. The question is, will he have his curveball?
You know, they say you throw a little harder after that old Tommy John or UCL surgery, I guess.
Yeah.
Depends on what doctor you ask how they define it.
That's right. This emergency, this is going to be a quick little show here. Emergency pod-ish type situation. This will be on the podcast feed as well. For those of you on YouTube that want to grab it to go or something. Brought to you by Tito's. Our friends. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Go get it.
They paid for a couple more days, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Right till the one thing they got it timed out. You know, they go right to the NFC Championship game, and the Niners say see ya, and we say see ya, and we say see you back in August 1st. So
that's right.
Our friends at Tito's, go have yourself a Tito soda. Go have yourself anything with Tito's. This is a year-round way of life for us. So
that's right.
When you're out having a cocktail with your wife, your girlfriend, your dad, your brother, your buddy, your business partner, you're on a business trip, make it a Tito's. Regardless, and if you want a drink that's on the menu and it doesn't have the right vodka, you tell them, I want that drink, but with Tito's. I do that a lot.
Yeah. That's a great move. And of course, Super Bowl coming up. That'll be you want to go to somebody's house, bring some Tito's. That'll be great. I would say bring some Tito's and the ginger beer, or bring some Tito's and some John Daly mix, something like that. Like really get that thing popping and have a great time. All right. Here's the news on Monday, John. Adam Schefter. Brock Purdy has suffered a torn UCL that will sideline him for 6 months per source. Schefter. Brock Purdy is seeking second medical opinions about whether he needs surgery, per source. 49ers are recommending surgery, but no decisions yet. And then Schefter added this. Actually, let me go to Pelissero here. The 49ers, Brock Purdy, suffered a complete tear of the UCL in his throwing elbow, will undergo surgery per sources. Purdy is getting second opinions. So far, same as what Schefter said. He goes on to say the initial hope is that he can undergo repair, not reconstruction, a.k.a. Tommy John, and will be ready for training camp. And one other addition, Schefter, just a quick little rundown here. Purdy, torn UCL, 6 months. Jimmy, torn broken foot, free agent. Trey, fractured fibula and ligament damage that required 2 surgeries on his ankle. So, as Kyle Shanahan likes to call it, business as usual.
Those were also, if memory serves me correct, when the 49ers broke training camp, headed to week 1, were quarterbacks 1, 2, and 3 on their active 53-man roster, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Actually, if you start at the bottom, there was 1, 2, and then 3, but it's
Trey 1,
injuries.
2. Actually, Schefter missed the boat here. He should have added Josh Johnson's concussion protocol. I know the Niners don't play don't play for a little while, but Josh Johnson is in the protocol. Is he not?
Would it shock you if he also had an elbow injury on that play as well, that they're just keeping under wraps? They don't want it to look too bad.
Would not shock me, John.
He got crushed.
Would not shock me. So there's the latest. So a lot of people have been reacting as if this is bad news for Brock Purdy, which obviously it is bad news to have to undergo elbow surgery. On the flip side, when the day ended last night, you and I were talking a lot about Tommy John. One thing, a surgery can lead to another surgery, as we saw with Trey Lance. My first reaction to this news is, if you tell me right now, Brock Purdy's back in 6 months, I would say, given after what I thought last night, Sunday night, that's a win for the 49ers. But, of course, things don't always go that smoothly, as we've seen.
Well, if you get surgery tomorrow, if you do a 6-month timetable, give or take a week. Either way,
That's,
it's right around the beginning
31
of when
days in
Pat's come on.
January, or is tomorrow February 1?
We got one more day. It's February 1, I think, is Wednesday.
Okay.
So if he were to have surgery by Wednesday, 6 months would basically be August 1st. And that's right around typically when teams report, right, the 27th, 28th of July. The pads usually come on right around there. Now, I would guess there'd be a couple-week period depending on how he had been rehabbing. But you could see him throwing mid in training camp, right, which would be a very, very big positive, right? And the negative to this is when you do suffer a major injury in the playoffs, or worst case scenario, the championship game or the Super Bowl, it is much closer to the season than, like, I read, when Ben tore his elbow, it happened in October. Like that's an extra 3 or 4 months relative. Remember Odell Beckham? It was like a month ago, people, before he got in the thing on the plane, were like, his knee's not ready. And you're doing the math. Well, the injury happened in February 10th, so that's, you sort of just add up the months. So an 8th month recovery is like November 1st. That's best case scenario. So they got a little lucky that a major, like if I told you going into the game, Brock Purdy's going to have a major injury, if I just said the word major injury, you would probably be like, well, based on months, it would be September, October, we'd have some problems. This is the best case scenario, major injury. If you take the dates with a grain of salt, and obviously we're dealing with human beings, not robots, you never have, it could be 4 months. It could be 9 months.
Yeah. It may be robots doing the surgery. Sometimes robots do the surgery, but
feels like we're 5 months away from that.
From what? Which part?
Whatever AGP or whatever it's called, and a robot,
Chat GPI or Chat GPT API.
Yeah, the GPS machines from Norman.
Stefania Bell, somebody in the chat, Anthony here said Stefania Bell's tweet was amazing. So I pulled it up. Here's what she wrote. The irony of this Brock Purdy injury is that it's the same injury Nick Mullins suffered when he was playing for the 49ers in place of an injured Jimmy Garoppolo in 2020. Mullins underwent a surgical UCL repair with internal brace. That's like the product name, IB, internal brace. It's less extensive than a complete reconstruction. If Purdy needs a repair, this would make them the only starting NFL quarterbacks to have had the procedure. It's uncanny.
I think the craziest part about this, in all seriousness, not joking, not being sarcastic,
you laugh.
Teams get hurt.
I mean, it's
teams have injuries. Every team goes through spurts of their franchise for a couple of years. D tackles, safeties, corner, a wide receiver, a running back. It's football. It's happened to every franchise. It's happened to the Niners. Bryant Young had his leg shattered. Jerry Rice had his leg shattered. Steve Young's career ended on the ground. Like it's football. Brett Favre's career ended on the ground.
Joe Staley had his leg shattered. He played.
There's no avoiding it. The quarterback thing is pretty outrageous. Like we've seen a lot of quarterback injuries, and guys just come back and they're completely fine. Like Aaron Rodgers. I remember middle of his career, broke a collarbone, and it feels like he's had a couple injuries, little ones here and there, but it's never like back-to-back seasons, missed 9 games apiece. The amount of injuries from Nick Mullins to Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance and now to Brock Purdy, I think she hit it on the head. Like it's kind of crazy. It's uncanny. It's kind of eerie. It's insane. And I'm sure as the week goes on, we can dive in a little bit to the offense does put you in some uncompromising positions. That's not really debatable.
Yeah, 7-step drops and
not looking.
The one where Micah Parsons almost got him 2 weeks ago, I went and looked, or I guess a week and a half ago now, right before the half, was a chip from Kittle. McGlinchey gets beat and disposed, but that was out of the pistol. The ball, we have to, again, put the stopwatch on how quickly the ball came out. He was out of the pistol, so he never turned his back to the rush. But anyway, that's a separate conversation that we'll
I do think when you're just in the shotgun, if we just looked at spread offenses like Mike Leach or Lincoln Riley or just what a lot of NFL teams do now that are very quarterback shotgun heavy, the guy is safer just from the sense that he can see more. It doesn't mean you are that one. Sometimes you said against Micah
play action, but
the thing you said with Micah Parsons,
yeah,
that play has happened in our 30-plus years of adult life watching football. It's happened from Troy Aikman to Brett Favre to Peyton Manning. Like, people have been hit. You get hit like that sometimes with great pass rushers. But the list of injuries on the Niners quarterbacks, as she put it, I think pretty perfectly, uncanny. Especially if two of them are the only two guys to have this specific. Now, Roethlisberger a couple years ago had the same thing. But if you remember, his was very baseball style, like wear and tear. Remember, he threw it and his arm just kind of went limp like a pitcher. It was not from like Haloti Nada slamming him on the ground.
It didn't get ripped. It was more like, I think, probably what happens to a pitcher.
Like a rope just breaks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not that he was throwing fastballs. Weird, but
he was old. I just think it was
a
wear and tear,
mechanical
older
thing.
body. Probably training wasn't consistent.
Yeah, it might have been. No, training, right? He wasn't in great shape. Could be. Was he not? Did he not use a lot of his core or his hips and the way he throws? We could have somebody mechanically break him down. Did he put a lot of stress on his elbow? That type of thing.
It's devastating news. I mean, game ends with your starting quarterback who had been really good for you tears his UCL. There's just no way around it to spin it positively, unless you tell me he automatically gains RPMs on his throws,
which he doesn't. Right? He might, but it doesn't automatic. It doesn't happen on him. Who knows? Like you said, I think every body. Space, the word every and the word body, every body is different. And every body reacts differently to different things.
And what do a lot of coaches and front office people say that the transition you make, whether you play a lot or don't, from your first and second year, right? Because every rookie, they don't have a true off season. Their season ends, usually at a bowl game. They go to the Senior Bowl, the Combine, they go to all the draft stuff. They get drafted. Everything's swimming. Especially a guy like that is just trying to make the team. Now he would have come back. Even if Tom Brady gets signed, he would have. Tom's probably not showing up in the offseason. But I guess he'd have to if they would probably determine, they're not signing him without that. But it's a setback for a young player that every rep for Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Steve Young, Joe Montana, John Elway is important when you're 22, 23, 24 years old. Every rep you had calling games, every rep I had once I got into radio, like, it matters. It
Raiders
just matters.
Post Game Live made you better?
Yeah, 100%.
It did. I know.
Did I love it?
You have that opportunity for minimum wage.
I actually enjoyed it. Derek Papa, now Niner fan. On my side.
I am Rob on the stream said they need Deadpool at QB. Deadpool kind of regenerates. So what OTAs are 5 months away? February, March, April, May, 4 months away.
Usually truly get going around early May.
Yeah. So at this point, and we can get to some of what Sando reported on tomorrow's podcast, but at this point, Trey Lance is your quarterback in OTAs.
Assuming he can move around. Right. No, that's exactly right. Like, you can make plans right now, but until Trey Lance is cleared, he isn't cleared. It was like this with Garoppolo. Until he's cleared, he's not cleared. So your quarterback situation is just unknown. And what your offense is going to look like in your opener is a little unknown right now. Well, it's not a little unknown. It's very unknown because there is still the possibility that your quarterback needs a more intrusive surgery than you hope, right? Like, given what is out there, UCL is best case scenario right now. There are worse cases than UCL. There's, in all likelihood, not going to be a scenario where he doesn't need surgery at this point. So UCL 6 months is the best case scenario. It's funny sometimes, man, like, you have a health issue or an injury and that is a bad scenario, but within all those scenarios, very quickly you arrive at the best case scenario is this and the worst case scenario is this. And right now, on January 29th, UCL injury was not the best case scenario. But here on January 30th, UCL surgery is the best case scenario. Right? Agreed.
The goalposts have moved. And if you're telling me, like you said, and we don't know how quickly can he get second opinions, if the decision is surgery, can he get under the knife by Valentine's Day, right? Or does it take longer?
I would say one thing in our experience, if memory serves me correct, you and I maybe went to 1 or 2 OTA practices last year, and they were kind of a joke. I think Kyle, given that they've played farther along, they have a veteran team, the training camp amped up with Trey. But I remember the OTAs not being as serious as years past in terms of the amount of time they were on the field. Now, depending on the week, we were only allowed 1 out of 3 days. I think the veteran OTA. I don't remember them being long.
May 24th, we did a video called Reacting to Trey Lance and Niners OTAs. That was May. That looks like that May 24th. It doesn't. Then it looked like OTA reaction on June 1, some mandatory OTA reaction on June 7th and June 8th.
Remember, he canceled the 3rd day.
He can't. That's right, which is his signature.
Debo went from trade request, I'm never talking to you again, to like, what's up, everybody?
To just like jog, and then later it was just there he was like chilling on the sidelines, laughing with everybody. Yeah.
To 6 months later, returning kicks, trying to like get every yard in a game it was over. He's loyal.
He's all, yeah. He went from I'm out to all in real quick. For the segment of people, and it really should be everybody. If there's one thing we've learned watching Kyle Shanahan teams or just sports in general, whatever you think is going to happen might happen, but no matter how sure you are that it's going to happen, nothing is guaranteed. And so just like once upon a time, there was no way Garoppolo was back, and then Garoppolo was back. There are times over the course of this year where it has felt like the Trey Lance era will never get off the ground for the 49ers. First his injury, then Garoppolo's playing well, and then really nothing has made the Trey Lance era feel more dead than the Brock Purdy era. But the Trey Lance era now opens up again, right? Now, what does that mean, and what does it look like? And it has to start with his health. God only, and even God don't know at this point, I don't think. But that door is more open today than it was 48 hours ago. It just is. Whatever happens, who knows? I think the thing, like, if we sat here at this time last year and said, John, next year, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy are all going to play for the 49ers, and they're going to go to the NFC Championship game. Give me 5 scenarios of how that plays out. You could give me 5 scenarios, and none of them would be right. So I don't know, how it plays out with Trey and Brock and Brady and Jimmy at this point. But I think you got to agree that the Trey Lance door is more open today than it was 2 days ago. It just is. The guy who was going to be their starting quarterback, still might be their starting quarterback, is probably going to have elbow surgery.
Yeah. Well, because he's going to get a lot of reps with the people that matter, right? He's going to be
get all the reps.
Ayuk, yeah. He's going to get them all.
If Ayuk wants to throw with somebody, again, I don't know who he throws with.
I would imagine, Guy, that they will. I just throw this name out because I do think he's just a functional guy that could win me a couple games with this roster is Andy Dalton, like his type. Like they will sign a guy like that.
Yeah.
I think they will be in the business for, if it's not Thomas, who I do not think is going to be signed, someone under $3 million, $2-3 million.
Foles feels like he's going to retire and probably a little too immobile for the Niners.
Appreciate everything he accomplished. He might just not be good anymore.
Yeah.
The Colt McCoy type also got hurt.
Teddy Bridgewater, a lot of injuries.
Kind of stinks too, There'll be names floating around.
Kobe?
Not a great athlete either. You see the story today that that the Raiders haven't come to Derek, like letting him seek a trade? Like, are they just going to cut him?
The Raiders have not come to Derek to let him seek a trade.
Because obviously they can't trade him. Like, you're just keeping us in the dark. Like, you can't make a move.
No trade, you're saying?
Yeah, you got 15 days. Like, you probably should keep us in the loop, guys.
You're saying the Raiders are just like moving on as if they're not going to trade him, or if they're trying to trade him, they're not talking to him, which they have to, right?
Yeah.
Am I understanding you? Yeah, that sounds. You're right, John.
I tell you, he gets cut.
After a bad Niners loss, we should dive into what's wrong with the Raiders.
Well, if he just gets cut, Would you be shocked if it was like Kyle Shanahan and Derek Carr had a conversation?
No, I wouldn't have a conversation.
Yeah.
If you were Derek, you'd want to find out, like, does this guy like me more than any of his quarterbacks? Right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say this for Kyle. Historically, if he's not interested, he doesn't have like exploratory. He doesn't do like, we don't need a quarterback, but let's just watch a little tape of this Josh Allen guy just in case. So from that standpoint, like Kyle may not even mess with it. Like, the only guy I'm going to meet with is Brady. Otherwise, Brock will be back, 6 to 9 months, even if it is 9 months, whatever. I can get to October with Trey or whatever. And I'm not even going to mess with a meeting. Like, does Kyle do a lot of like exploratory? Let's just have a cup of coffee and, just connect on LinkedIn and see if maybe later we can work together. Like, it's not really Kyle's speed.
Well, like, why was he at dinner the one night when Richard was a free agent? Because he wanted Richard on his team.
Right.
And he was trying to broker a deal, right? The thing, I just threw out the Derek. Like, Derek financially doesn't make any sense for the Niners. I don't think Tom Brady.
Derek would make, like, to me, Derek would make sense if Derek's like, the best revenge is living well, and I just got to go to the best possible place to succeed.
Let's sign a 1-year, $10 million deal, get my value sky high.
Yeah, like Sam Heward going to Cal Poly, transferring to Cal Poly.
The Niners are king of? This is kind of speaks to your Kyle, like kind of cold-blooded. Like, he's got some Belichick, just clearly he's good one-on-one with players and as the group, but like when he does business, like, yeah, we won't franchise tag you. We'll just do a deal with you, let you franchise. Like, they're not caught up into all the like things that certain organizations fight in. Like, they would do a deal like, hey, will you come $15 million deal? You'll be our starting quarterback. And we will have zero franchise power. We'll let you, like, you'll just at the end of the season be a true free agent. We can't do anything, and you just hit the market and shoot to the top.
Yeah.
Like, he would be unfazed doing something like that. Like, some organizations philosophically would never do that stuff.
It goes back to, you've brought it up many times over the years when we interviewed Parag, and it really stuck with us, and you've referenced it a lot, where he said the best deals truly are deals where both sides feel like they've won.
They'll just do deals, like more like a business person than like, I think sometimes sports organizations are like, we need the second-year player option. The Niners are like, fuck it. You give us $2 million back on the back end, we'll let you hit the open market, no trade clause, and we cannot franchise tag you. Like, they're just very unemotional. Obviously, it starts with Parag, who's been negotiating, but I think Kyle fits that bill immediately as well. Like, I don't have time. Just give them the note. We won't franchise tag them. Like, they've done that pretty consistently.
Don't you think part of that is just confidence in yourself? Like, we're going to give Trent what he wants, and then he'll come here and he'll like it. Like, we're going to give a guy what they want. And then, it's kind of like the sales tactic of, hey, if you want to go check other prices or, go look around. If you're not going to buy from me, that's okay. Salespeople like, if you're not going to buy from me, that's okay. I just want you to get what's best for you, which can absolutely be authentic. You can mean it. And it can also be a useful sales tactic, because not everybody even pretends to care about you getting
most people
best
don't
for yourself. Right. And most people
don't.
Certainly don't. And most don't even bother to pretend. And some people mean it, like really mean it. And it's a great tactic, because a lot of people will ultimately pay a little more for customer service, pay a little more for support, pay a little more for advice, pay a little more, like the famous, I'm going off track here, but the famous Abraham Lincoln story is like some guy comes to him and asks him a law question, and he goes to the shelf and he pulls the book off the shelf. He opens it. He says, all right, here's your answer. That'll be $500. And the guy'd be like, $500? What am I paying you for? That took you 30 seconds. And old Abe says, well, you're not paying me for the 30 seconds. You're paying me for knowing where to look for the answer. It took me years to learn where to look for the answer, and that you're paying me for that. And I think with Kyle, it's like, why wouldn't you be confident that you can give somebody a deal that lets them then make their own choice at the end? I think when you give somebody choice, they're more likely to choose the place that gives them choice.
I think Trent would have to tell you, it's the best decision of my life.
Well, I mean, he'd have a championship if he'd gone to Kansas City.
Would he?
I guess no, he wouldn't have. He'd be in the Super Bowl this year if he'd gone to Kansas City.
Yeah, he would have. But he got to back-to-back NFC Championship games, and because of the no franchise deal, it did allow him to hit the open market, drive up his price probably by an extra 10 guaranteed, and get the most money. Like, he got more money in San Francisco than he would have with Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know.
Yes.
We'd have to get the tax man if you factor in all. Maybe he, broke even, but you know what I mean.
Yep. Comment here from Corey, who gave us $10 to say, I watched the game with a good friend who was a minor league baseball player. He called out the injury as a UCL. He just texted me and said, that dude ain't coming back in 6 months.
I'm always hesitant with the numbers, right? With 5 months, 3 months, 9 months. Every human being's different. I think there's a general vicinity. Clearly, pitching is a lot different than playing quarterback. The thing Delhomme told Warrenson, it's been well documented by doctors. It's a different mechanism. It doesn't have to be like baseball. You can't throw it any harder. In football, it's a little different, but it clearly is a very, very serious
different position.
True, and you're moving. The off-speed stuff, aren't you?
Curveball. Where's that your elbow, Jen?
So they always tell you don't throw curveballs in Little League, and every little kid's trying to throw a curveball. Most of our elbows are fine.
Brock does the drop down, though. Brock does do the drop down baseball throw. I wonder if his dad.
I mean, yesterday was a shitty day, and this is icing on the shitty day. I try to think of like analogies. What would parallel this? Like I was thinking like it'd be like you won down in the Masters and you get to like the 7th hole and you run out of golf balls.
Oh, those types of analogies. Yeah.
I text a buddy that and he's like, well, I'd view it as like you're one down on the 4th hole and you trip on the tee box of the Masters and you tear your Achilles.
You know what I would say is it's like if I break my driver, can I replace my driver during the round?
Yes, you can.
Is there a scenario where I can't replace it? Like if I break it because I slam it into the ground in anger, can I not replace it then, or can I still replace it?
I think if it breaks on its own, you can replace it. If you snap it over your leg, you can't get a new putter or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's something like that, where like this, you're tied in the 2nd round. There's some debate. You're like, I did not break it in anger. They're like,
I don't think it's the 2nd round because this is the NFC Championship.
Sorry, not the 2nd round. The 2nd hole.
Sunday.
Yeah, 2nd hole. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's something like that, where all of a sudden you're and for like 7 holes, you're kind of holding it together. Like, oh man, it's a 7-7 game. We're in this. And the other golfer is like not playing great that day. That's the other thing. It's like, he's missing some. It's like, oh my God, the door is wide open here.
What if it was like Game 7 World Series, your version of like Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper, Game 7, and this guy's had a fantastic series. In like the 1st inning, hits one like off the wall. He looks sweet round in 1st. All of a sudden, just falls over himself, knee blown out. And even though the game's 0-0 at the time, or it could be 1-0, everyone's sitting there in disbelief as the whole place goes silent, carried off the field. Your best player.
How about deep drive to right? Outfielder goes back, leaps, it bounces. No one can tell was it out or not. So your Mookie Betts scenario, he's running to 2nd, play at 2nd base, slide, safe, but tears the knee on the slide. Upon review, it was a home run. There never should have been a play. Maybe that, because that one feels, even though it's not exactly what happened, like that one feels real like there was no reason for that to happen.
The difference probably with this Mookie Betts one and even my golf one is like in golf, if I tore my Achilles or whatever, like I couldn't keep walking. Like Mookie Betts blew out his leg. They'd take him under the tunnel. Purdy was just standing there. And it was kind of clear, but it wasn't totally clear. But you just kept looking at his face. Like this is a bizarre experience.
How about it's an F1 race? Somebody brought the wrong tires. So you can still drive, they work, but they're like, I don't know enough about racing.
15 mile an hour slower.
Yeah, they're just like they won't hold up if you go faster because they're made for some other type of racing. So you're out there. It looks like you're out there. We're all yelling like, why aren't they going faster?
And just getting smoked.
But it's like if they go faster, the wheel's almost surely going to burst. But they're just staying out there in case there's an accident. Like kind of the Niners defense. Like we're just out here in case Jalen Hurts throws us 2 pick sixes and we find a way to win this game. You just drive it in case there's a 12-car pileup and somehow the waters part for you. What about that analogy?
Yeah, it's a slow burn. Because I had the TV on last weekend, like the X Games come on, and sometimes there are just some devastating falls on any winter ski snowboard thing. and you're kind of a disbelief watching this guy that might be dead, but it does happen really fast, and then it's over. There was a slow burn nature of the Niner thing where it was just, you kept looking up. You're like, there is 15 minutes left in this game. This is insane. I can't watch this anymore. I had a buddy text me today that said, like, I looked up and I felt like I had been in pain for a couple hours and there was 10 minutes left in the game. It's like, this is insane.
You had the perfect analogy yesterday because multiple people have texted me the same analogy after you said it, which was, it's just like burning. It's just watching the whole thing burn from the inside, but you just, it's too slow, but it's also so painful. Somebody said Finau dislocating his ankle during the par 3 event before the Masters.
Yeah, the difference is he put it back, and I think he finished top 10 in that Masters. Remember?
That's true. What
like
about
if Purdy would have been able to battle through and the game was tight and they ended up losing in today, it would have been like, that was the guttiest. I think a lot of people would be proud. And he couldn't do it. But my point is, like, you didn't even get to experience a football game. That's what it felt like.
How about the one Chris V just put on the chat? Watching Usain Bolt, like you're Usain Bolt, you show up for a big race, but you only have penny loafers.
The problem though with that is, even if it takes him 14 seconds instead of 10, it's 15 seconds. This is a
you're right.
3.5 hour.
Yeah, that is, it's less. But I do think the analogy of, like, you know, yeah, it'd have to be a race, maybe a little bit of a longer race.
It was bad.
Yeah, Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds. You got Barry Bonds in your lineup. He's the only left-handed hitter in your lineup. He's the best hitter. Barry Bonds in his prime. He's your only lefty. His helmet got left somewhere, and they won't let him hit left-handed because you have to have the ear flap on the right ear. It's major league rule. You can't hit without the ear flap. And so he has to bat right-handed. How about that one?
It's only 1 AB, and there's 3 or 4 in a game.
Okay.
I think it's just different. It's every time the offense was on the field. I just don't think there is a comparable. I've never seen anything like that. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. Hard to say because Kyle has shown us now uncanny ability. It's not out of the realm of possibility that something like this happens again. If you tell me the team in 2023 most likely to get to their emergency quarterback, it is not even a question what the answer is. It's the San Francisco 49ers.
How about you're on a date with a girl that's much too good looking for you, and your best quality, you're a solid looking dude, but your best quality is your personality. But you lost your voice the night before and you can't talk. So you're like Brock, you're like, why aren't you talking? But when you talk, you sound ridiculous. So you don't talk. But you try to talk and it's terrible.
Delay the date.
Delay the date. Yeah. She's in town only from she's got to leave for the Milan.
Problem is with hot chicks, if they're single, they got a lot of options, so you can't delay the date. Yeah, it'd be a problem.
All right. We'll be back on Tuesday. Plenty more to talk about. Send us your analogies on this one. We'll try and come up with a good one. While we were talking, I texted our buddy Hunter Bishop. I said, what do you think about the UCL? He said, insane. I can't believe he even tried to throw.
Because if you play baseball, wouldn't you say probably Power 5 and definitely in the minor leagues, it's inevitable you'd see it.
Well, baseball guys, yeah, like baseball guys, no baseball guys would have been questioning Brock Purdy's toughness yesterday because they've seen it a million times. We're like, I can't throw. And I was like, yeah, we've seen this before. You cannot throw. It's impossible for you to throw. We get it, right? In football, you don't see that injury ever. So everyone's like, how can he not throw? Baseball people all get that injury. Like they understand why you can't throw because you physically cannot throw.
Did have a buddy, Orlando, listener of the pod, played in minor leagues, played at UC Davis. I pitched 2 innings with a torn UCL. Gave up a ton of hits and runs, but it is possible. Just
save the bullpen. Bullpen day.
I think the story is they were playing Hawaii and his family was there. He couldn't just come out of the game.
But I mean, he threw the ball.
Yeah. I mean, Kobe shot with a torn Achilles.
Yeah. I mean, Clay took 2 free throws.
He did throw. He just didn't. He couldn't throw it past 10 yards.
Couldn't throw. Yeah, couldn't throw 5. He couldn't throw, and he could spiral.
Can only imagine.
check the if you're listening to the podcast, check the video at the 34:30 mark for that latest comment. All right, everybody. Thanks for the quick hang, the emergency pod. We'll talk to you soon. Later.